what are the big takeaways from the space shuttle program? What did we learn as a result of that in its retirement and its impact on other programs? And one of the things to me personally was the station was started, and actually started when I was. They were thinking about it when I came to work here in the 80s. Shuttle was already flying. Started designing the station, and it went away and then came back, and I guess we finally got serious about it in the early 90s. But by then, the shuttle had already been flying for 15 years. And so our plan was to build this station with many, many shuttle flights, 44 shuttle flights. And but if you looked at how many we expected to fly, say 5 a year, and how many years the shuttle had already flown, did it really make sense to actually be able to fly all those flights, all those additional years? And then, by the way, that's just a symbol. And then the station would fly beyond that for research. All the elements of the ISS were designed to fly up and down. Our concept in terms of spares was to fly things up and down. Our crews were to be rotated. The utilization, the science experiments were all to be done, and then the results and even sometimes the equipment brought back down to the ground. The whole program, which was going to have a 15-year and perhaps beyond lifetime on itself, was built on this idea that shuttle was going to be there. But if you really sit down and think, does it make sense? Could the shuttle vehicle itself last that many years? And then could NASA or we as a nation want to spend the resources for that program in addition to ISS for that many years? So the answer is possibly, but you have to think that there's a possibility it also wouldn't. And so I think the thing we should have done in that time frame was think about, well, what are our options if the shuttle wasn't going to be there? How do we continue on with a productive and viable program if the shuttle wasn't going to be there? We ended up doing that, but more out of a necessity, I would say, than a prior plan. And so we probably should have seen the time skew of those things, such that it's a very likely possibility that shuttle would not be there by the end of the ISS program. And so there you go. I think that's a big lesson. So a second takeaway was that the space shuttle itself was not only important to us, to ISS in terms of how we actually would assemble and utilize and resupply the space station, but it's very important to our international partners. One, their elements were actually designed uniquely to fit into a shuttle. They really couldn't be, without almost a complete redesign, launched on any other vehicle in the world. And certainly mass-wise, there was no other launch vehicle for them to fly on. So their pieces, their elements had to fly on shuttle. But probably even more important, their crew members, each one of these partners, had flight opportunities, and they expected their crew members to be able to fly up on the shuttle and down on the shuttle. And so, and to some extent, they even though we think of it as a U.S. vehicle, they had an identity with the space shuttle. And so not only did they have crew members that flew up to station and lived there, they saw the potential for opportunities to fly crew members just up and down on a shuttle flight. Perhaps the shuttle flight was going to deliver their element. And I can tell you from working with the partners, having their crew members on board and in space is a huge thing. In fact, it's hard for us to understand in the United States today because having astronauts in space is something that we've had for many, many years here, and we don't have the national excitement about one of our crew members flying. It's completely different in other parts of the world. Today, in Canada, there's a Canadian astronaut who's the commander of the ISS, and all through Canada, there's tremendous excitement about having their astronaut on board ISS, and in particular being the commander of this of the space station. The same is true about having their astronaut on board the shuttle. So the rest of the world having the shuttle was really, really important. And the third thing was, so we had this accident with the Columbia, and it had tremendous. We talked about technical and scientific and really emotional impacts to our country and to the ISS as well. But one of the things that we didn't see initially, before the shuttle, we were arguing with our partners, and we were partners, but it was not an overly close relationship. So we were always, we always had disagreements, and sometimes these disagreements would last for a very long time to overcome, and it was very difficult. Now all of a sudden, in one day, we have the Columbia accident, and immediately everyone realizes, well, now the primary means of rotating crew members, the primary means of assembling and resupplying the station is gone. How do we keep the space station alive? How do we keep humans going up there? How do we keep people alive up there? How do we continue utilizing the space station? And we immediately pulled together as a partnership. And it was actually a tremendous thing, and it's even resonates today, years after that accident, over a decade after that accident. The partnership is much, much closer today, and we know that when times get tough, when the really tough times come, that we'll pull together. And so today we actually function much better as a partnership and as a program as a result of that accident. So. It's unfortunate that we had it, and I don't know how you do this I don't even know how you'd create this kind of relationship in the future. I can just tell you that as we go forward and we create relationships to do a future program, if we were going to have another program with Russia or with the European countries in ESA, with Japan and with Canada, we know today there is no doubt that when we need to pull together, that we can. And so the one of the positive things out of this is that we knew for ISS, we learned through ISS, and we know going forward into the future that we can count on our partners when the time is tough, and they can count on us. So a really important lesson to have learned. I talked a little bit about the equipment and the people who've come to live on or come to be part of ISS, to come work on ISS and there, but really the station wouldn't exist today. It would not be conceived of. It wouldn't be possible to build something of the magnitude of the space station. It weighs close to 1 million pounds. It's the size of an American football field or a soccer pitch, if you will. Something of that magnitude could not be built by launching individual rockets and trying to assemble it in space. It really could only be built with something like a space shuttle that goes up there and has a crew there. They can assemble it. It really can be only done that way. And so when we look up in space and see the space station fly by, in fact, it'll fly by Houston this evening, you can look up there and see it and know that even though the shuttle was retired, all the people who worked on the space shuttle program and the shuttle itself really has made that possible. It's part of the International Space Station. It's part of the heart, the soul, the history, and really the existence of the International Space Station. And so I know I look at it every day when it flies by and think about all those people, about that program, about those vehicles even that made it possible. And I can't see the space station without seeing the space shuttle. It'll be a part of ISS all the way to the end of the ISS program.